An intellectual carrot. The mind boggles.
You see? You see? Your stupid minds. Stupid! Stupid!
Earth has had Santa Claus long enough. We will bring him to Mars.
I've been afraid a lot of times in my life. But I didn't know the real meaning of fear until I had kissed Becky.
One thing will be clear. It's not for man to interfere in the ways of God.
It's alive. Oh, it's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Earth vs. Soup, episode 154. I'm Aaron Pollier.
I'm Darlene.
We watched two pretty bad movies today, but there's a reason for it, and we're going to go over them fairly quickly. Because after the end of last episode, which was Robot versus the Aztec Mummy, I had questions. I had many questions, and I think you did too. I think you did. Because we did not understand why that movie was made. Mainly because Robot vs. Aztec Mummy was almost 75% flashback. It was retelling the first two movies in this saga, correct?
Correct. And you had a theories, and you still have theories.
So I want to talk about, we watched two movies for this. We watched Curse of the Aztec Mummy, which is the second movie in the trilogy, and we could not find the first movie in the trilogy, unfortunately. But I watched another movie in the Aztec Mummy universe, the extended universe, called Wrestling Women versus the Aztec Mummy.
Completely different
story. Right?
And very...
What was different in it, Darlene?
Well, you have this Asian, and I put heavy quotes around it.
Well, yes. Well put. You put heavy quotes around the word Asian. Well put, Darlene. We'll get into it. What else is different about the extended universe here?
There's wrestlers, and there's this group of wrestlers that's working for the government. I don't understand what it is.
And it's a completely different mummy with a completely different sacrifice.
They're trying to take down this gang called the Dragon.
Yeah. Okay, so... First off, we'll do a couple blanket statements here about Wrestling Women versus the Aztec Mummy, which, by the way, was filmed in 1964. There are actors that are playing Asian characters in this that are not Asian. They have makeup on that gives them certain characteristics that you would assume Asian people have.
And their clothing is horrible.
It is offensive. It would not be made this way today. I actually firmly believe, I firmly felt offended by most of the movie because of the racial stereotypes and the
sewing of that outfit was... I would see a child that was starting sewing, a teenager doing something like that outfit.
Yes. There's lots of problems.
Because it does not even hang on the individual correctly.
So, Curse of the Aztec Mummy from 1957. We've already talked about the plot in the previous episode. Okay? Which is the Bat and Lilac, his assistant, kidnapping Flora, and trying to figure out a way to get the Aztec treasure away from the mummy. Okay? The thing that we did not realize at all about this movie, because it's not said in the flashbacks, is that there is a luchador as a main character in Curse of the Aztec Mummy. Full luchador mask, and his name is Angel. And he drives around in a beautiful car, right? What was it?
No, that's the gang.
That's the gang in the next movie? I thought he actually had a beautiful...
That's the gang that has that beautiful car.
I thought Angel had a white car that was...
No, that's the...
Oh, well, I'm sorry. No, I mean, there are some beautiful cars in this, let's put it that way. But in the flashbacks, we don't see a thing about this luchador. Not a thing.
We also have a child that he keeps promoting to help him, which I don't know whether it is the doctor, whatever's the main character's.
I'll look up the doctors. See, I hardly have
Amanda,
names. Almada. Dr.
Amada.
Almada, yeah.
Whether it's his son or his brother, but they call him
Pepe. It's Pepe Almada.
It's Pepe on the thing, but they keep calling him a very, like, Angel. I don't think that's the name of the luchador.
Okay. No, it is. That his
It keeps
luchador's name
coming
is
out
Angel.
is in dubbing as Angel.
Yeah.
But Pepe is never called Pepe. You don't understand what I'm saying here?
Yes.
They're like Floor. It's Flora said as Flora.
Okay. Yes.
And we also ended up having a problem because Floor was not married to him in the.
Well, aren't they married in Robot versus Aztec
They're
Mummy?
married in Robot versus Aztec Mummy.
They're not married
They're
here.
she's a fiance.
Mm-hmm. It's El Angel.
The Angel. Okay.
Yeah, the Angel. So, yeah, it's Angel is the wrestler's name. So, yeah, the wrestler Angel, Luchador, he puts Pepe into incredibly dangerous situations all the time. It is child endangerment all the way through this movie. I don't want to dwell on the plot of this since, like I said, we've already covered it. But I will say a few things about this movie overall. Like I said, child endangerment, a surprise luchador, and that there is a flashback telling the story of the first movie, but it's only 4 minutes.
Oh, but it's only 4 minutes.
It's
not 70.
It's not 75% of the movie.
It's not 40.
40-something minutes long.
40, yeah, almost 45 minutes long.
It was actually a reasonable flashback retelling of the first movie. A completely reasonable flashback. So, we've already talked about the plot. I keep saying that. But my theory based on this, because we know about how good the scenes from the first movie looks, especially with the extended flashback in Robot versus Aztec Mummy, my theory is that all three of these movies, like you theorized in the last episode, they were all filmed at the same time. Aztec Mummy, Curse of the Aztec Mummy, Robot versus Aztec Mummy. They were all filmed at the same time. But for the third movie, footage was lost. They literally lost most of their footage.
Or they had to have it done by a certain time, so they just threw in.
They just had whatever left.
And did you know that the producer, the writers, that are all the same people?
They're all the same people. Either they ran out of money and didn't have footage for the third film,
which is very possible.
It's possible, but that robot costume looks really good. I don't want to say it looks actually like realistic or good. I'm saying it looks like it actually costs money to make, as garbagey as it is. Either they ran out of money, they ran out of time, or they lost most of their footage. And they only had like a roll where like the Bat was around, the Bat and Lilac, because they're the only ones that really mattered in the film. And then they had to bring everybody back in to film the narration parts. So I think that was the big problem. That basically
you didn't really need to do that because it was just them sitting in that.
That's what they had filmed on top of everything because they lost everything. That's my theory.
Okay.
That's my theory. That was
my theory is money.
It's just money ran out and they had nothing left, and they only had enough money to make the robot costume, and they got the robot costume from somebody else. Maybe.
Well, think of it this way: you got this much and you wrote this much of it and filmed this much, but you have to have it as 65 minutes long.
Yeah.
Over an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so they added the rest of it.
Pad it out. Yeah, by retelling the two original movies. Well, the two previous movies, I should say. So, I will say that Curse of the Aztec Mummy was a better movie than Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. A much better movie, in fact. It's far more entertaining. It's an actual movie. There's things that happen in it, and I can't.
But it don't make any sense.
It still doesn't make sense. It's still really ridiculous. So I would only recommend it again for like irony sake. Like watching Curse of the Aztec Mummy and then Robot versus the Aztec Mummy one after each other might be kind of bad. It might be a bad idea. I'm pretty sure that Darlene despised doing that because we already know 90% of the plot of Curse of the Aztec Mummy. But you don't recommend it, correct, Darlene? No. Okay.
I don't recommend you doing that.
No, and we don't recommend the movie. It's not that good. Like, the only way I'd say, like I said, is if you really want the full Aztec Mummy experience. Now, Wrestling Women versus the Aztec Mummy.
Whole different movie.
Whole different scenario. Okay.
They use the same premise of the Aztec plate and
Yeah, like the breastplate, and there's like a mummy that a warrior that defiled a sacrificial woman.
which you found out, yes, when we watched that other movie, that is what she.
Yeah, her virginity was taken. Yeah, in Robot versus Aztec Mummy, which actually was Aztec Mummy. Anyway, sorry.
So
Wrestling
the premise of the before the movie even starts is there.
It's the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's the same mythos, just different names.
It's different names, and instead of having a gang led by a guy named the Bat,
it's the dragon.
It's the dragon,
and big old quotes.
Like we said, it is. There are some Asian actors in this, and they do have speaking roles, but all of the main Asian characters are actually played by Mexican actors and actresses, and it's a tad offensive. Let's put it that way. It would not be made today. It just wouldn't. Correct?
Oh my god!
Yeah, Darlene's just completely taken aback. So we're introduced, and since this is a different story with the same premise, I'm going to talk about the plot. We're introduced to the dragon by the dragon's associates tossing bodies out of cars, and it turns out they're all associates of this one dude called what's his name? Is it Rios? Armando Rios? I think so. Boy, see, I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I guess it doesn't matter. A lot of these characters I just don't give names to because I was too distracted with how kind of awful the movie was on a production level. Yeah, the main villain is actually, his name is Prince Fujiwara. The problem is that I think it's mentioned once, maybe twice in the movie, and it's very brief. So they don't really talk about his name. And I ended up writing Dr. Fu Manchu down throughout my notes because
that's what he looks like.
He looks like Fu Manchu.
Very bad, like you would have got
stereotypical Asian person. Asian crime lord from the Victorian age.
Yeah. An English version.
Yeah. A racial stereotype. It's very offensive. So we then are introduced to two women wrestlers. Okay, so we have Loretta, who is actually known under her wrestling name of Gloria Venus, and she's an actual actress. She's actually very beautiful. She's actually a good actress in this. I think she does a very good job with what she's given. And then there's the other woman and that's Ruby. And I think her wrestling name is what?
There's three females. There's three females.
Yes. Golden Ruby's the other wrestler, and then the one woman who isn't a wrestler, the blonde, that's Charlotte. And I think her Spanish name is Shella. I think it is. So anyway, they're wrestling. They're actually here's the issue with the production of these like wrestling matches is the close-ups are the actresses. And they're doing a pretty good job of acting like they can wrestle. But the medium and long shots are either stunt doubles that you can tell are stunt doubles because they don't have even the same figure as these actresses, let alone the same hair. Or the long shots are like stock footage of wrestling matches. So it's three different wrestling matches happening at the same time. That's what it comes off as. It turns out when they go back to their locker room, there's a dude just standing behind a pillar in their locker room looking like a pervert. And they go, "Hey, buddy, what the hell are you doing there?" And it turns out that he's hiding from Black Dragon assassins, right? And it turns out that he has information on this Aztec codex. And this codex was being translated at one point. I don't know. It does not matter. Let's pass over a whole bunch of stuff here.
These women and two men are supposed to be some government officialing, I think.
No, they're working for Dr. Rios, who is the archaeologist in charge of like Aztec findings near Mexico City. Okay. And what it is, he has half of the codex. Okay. And it turns out that Fu Manchu, he has half of the codex. So this doctor says, okay, whatever, I'm going to split up my half of the codex into three pieces and hide them in different places around Mexico City, and I'm going to entrust it to one of these dudes, like the kind of cowardly dude, I guess, and then two of these women wrestlers who are supposed to be like actual badasses, and I guess they are. But he does it
stupidly. He sends flowers with a key.
Yeah,
he puts a key in a letter in a hotel box.
Yes. One of the pieces of the codex is hidden in the P.O. box of one of the girls. Like,
yeah, and one's in a post office.
It's all incredibly obvious where he's. Oh, and a hat, a sombrero. Remember?
Oh yes, he went to a hat shop and got the little short guy.
Like this beautiful sombrero, like
and
a really
I don't know if
sombrero.
He's really short because that woman is really tall.
Yeah, well, yes, Gloria is very tall. Loretta, the actress's name is Loretta Velquez.
But he is, well, even Charlotte stands a little bit over top of her, especially with her poofy hair.
Well, she has big hair and high heels. I think she's like 6'2" with her high heels and like beehive. And I remember, this was the movie that I was commenting that I actually thought that most of the women's hair was extensions.
Yes.
Not Lorena, the actress Lorena. I think her hair was real. But like everybody else's had this
But you did ask me if hers was a wig. And I said, no, I think that's her hair.
And it was.
But then I showed you that some of them look like they're
extensions.
What we'd call extensions today.
Well, yes, because of the beehive. And I was trying to make a comparison to Yeoman Rand in Star Trek with like the beehive.
The weave.
Yeah, the weave that they would put on. Anyway, we have some really dumb fights between Black Dragon, gang members, and these women. And the only thing that we really get out of these fights is that the women wrestlers are actually pretty good fighters. Or I should say their stunt doubles are actually pretty good fighters because they look good in the close-ups.
I like one of your comments.
What?
They come driving in with that car, the gangs, and they all pile out in this crappy warehouse or something.
Yeah.
And they just open up this
secret
door. When
is it Charlotte
she's
gets hypnotized at this point.
She's told to go to a door. There is no door.
There is no door because it's a secret door.
It's a secret door behind an electric chair.
Not an electric powered chair. No, an executioner's electric
chair.
And she just kind of walks up to
And
the
then
electric chair.
she has to go through another door too. That's
Yeah.
a secret door.
And then she goes out into the warehouse and just like walks in those high heels, like she's walking over motor oil. And I'm like, holy, she's gonna slip. She's gonna go down because she does not look steady. And I think that was a good acting job. That yes, she's under hypnosis, and so she's kind of walking in this kind of dreamlike state. But I thought, oh man, I wonder how many times she actually fell on her ass on that oil spill, because it looked like an actual car was parked there for many years.
Well, it wasn't there first time.
Yeah. So, we have these multiple fights, and then it turns out that the Black Dragon and Dr. Fu Manchu have gotten basically 2 of the 3 split up half of it. And he basically gets to the point where he's able to hold a gun on the guy that's holding the last piece. And he goes, and Fu Manchu says, no, I'm a man of honor. I'll give you a chance to have all of the pieces of the codex back if you let my sisters fight your women in a wrestling match. And I go, oh my God, it's a WWE plot line here.
Just to make it short, it extended the movie for about 10 to 12 minutes.
No, it was 10 minutes. It was a 10-minute wrestling sequence. Now, I timed it 41 minutes to 51 minutes 20 seconds. So it's just a little more than 10 minutes. It extended the movie. There was no real drama in it, in that we know who's going to win. The heroes are going to win. The only drama is whether Fu Manchu is going to be a man of his word. And it turns out that he actually is. He's actually very honorable and keeps his word. He gives them the codex and says, I will be on my way.
I think he was going to do the whole thing of be on his way, give him the codex.
He was going to follow him.
And get it back.
No. He even said that. He said he wasn't. He says, I'm a man of my word, and if my word is not good.
I meant in his because handing it over is all he said. Just like the other guy said that I didn't promise you I wasn't going to arrest you.
Well, yeah, but okay, so you had gone out to get tea at this point. There was a scene actually back at the Black Dragon hideout where his second in command says, you're not going to just let them keep the codex. And he says, yes, I am. I will just follow them. They're useful.
It's a waiting game is all he said. Yes.
Yeah. He's like, no, it's not a big
deal. I thought
deal.
that was his intention in the first place.
Yeah, he doesn't care. He's going to let them take the risk, which actually makes a whole lot of sense. It's the one time that this character, Fujiata, does something kind of smart, because he understands that there's some sort of danger involved. At least that's what the codex says, because he has like a spy camera in their office that he watches
and they
everything
don't
with.
Find, and it's this eyeball like glass thing
Yes.
that actually has to move to follow them.
So we get a flashback to Aztec times again.
Oh, and you should talk about the over camera shot of him being frozen.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Fujiata, this is bad filmmaking. I'm going to say this is a part of the thing that does not work for this movie. Fujiata has this camera hidden in this office, correct? He's watching everything on a television screen. So we literally see a freeze frame over the shoulder shot of him watching the TV screen where the TV screen is animated, but it's just a freeze frame of him over the shoulder watching this TV.
It looks like a cardboard cutout of him.
It does.
And it's the same position no matter where, because his hands are
like down in front of him. What did I say, Darlene, about that? Like, what was the point?
That's what you said. What is the point of that?
There is absolutely zero need for us to be watching Fujiata watching a television. We could just be watching exactly what he is.
They could have talked to him and he turns on the thing and then go to
the scene that he is watching. And you don't have this stupid freeze frame. And it's really bad. But anyway, we get a flashback to like Aztec times, and we're told the story of this sacrificial woman. And again, like, it feels like a completely different movie. This is all different footage than what we have seen before in the flashbacks from
And it's a slight different
story
too.
but it's all new footage. And here's the thing, it looks so good that I honestly think it had to have been for a different movie.
It didn't have peacock feathers.
No, all the headdresses actually look reasonably realistic. I'm not going to say they looked real because I'm not an expert on Aztec costuming or anything like that, or culture.
Is there anyone that has that?
Well, I'm sure there are some archaeologists
or
historians.
We don't even know really.
We do, because I mean the Aztecs were around during the conquistadors were there and documented a lot.
Yeah, they're lying sacks of shit too.
Yeah, they are. They were, but there are preserved Aztec costumes from the time, Darlene. We've actually seen them personally. When we went to the British Museum, they actually had a couple preserved there.
But what I was going to say is, do we really know what people wore back, like even in the Egyptian times and that?
Okay, no, but what I am also saying is that their headdresses didn't have peacock feathers in them. It looked like actual like hawk or eagle or like vulture feathers. And I thought, well, that's way more realistic than a peacock, because peacocks came from where, Darlene?
Peacocks come from Asia and Africa.
Yeah. So they wouldn't have been in
And it's a peahen. Peacock is the guy.
Yeah. The what do you call the species though? It's
peahen, I think.
I thought it was peacocks. Anyway, doesn't matter. It's really good footage. The costuming is really well done. There's like hundreds of extras all in costume with like shields and spears.
I like the priest of the jaguar.
Yeah, the jaguar warrior.
Was it a warrior?
Yeah, because they talk about like how there's jaguar, eagle, and
I wasn't paying attention.
It's jaguar, eagle, and I forget the third kind of warrior. And I should know this too. Damn it. Anyway, the warrior that tries to free the sacrificial woman is a jaguar warrior. Okay? And he has special magic. So when he's turned into a mummy...
And they called them sorcery and demons. And how do you do that on a culture? Put your Christian beliefs onto...
Sorcery might be a transliteration. Demon might be a transliteration. Like, they might not think of them as demons as in Christians thinking of demons, or, Judeo-Christian thinking of demons. But it might be a similar thought of what the supernatural entity is in connection to other deities. So I'm not taking it as in when they say demon, I don't think they're meaning it in a Judeo-Christian
But when they were
sense.
talking about sorcery, the people in the show,
yes,
the movie,
in the past,
not in the past. We're talking about in the present.
Sure,
they said sorcery and demons, and it really sounded like
fine. Who's saying it then? Probably, modern day Mexican people who might be very well Catholic. So of course they're going to think of it in that.
What is the word for that? When you you judge a culture by using your own culture.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's wrong. Regardless.
I forget the word for it.
Regardless. They all end up hearing this story through the translation of this codex. And they decide they're going to go to the temple. Okay. And the temple is outside of Mexico City. You actually found a picture of it in real life. It is right outside of Mexico City. They actually go on location to this place. It is actually a very cool looking place. And the professor and the wrestling girls destroy a cultural landmark by pickaxing through a part of the pyramid so they can climb in. I wrote down destroy a cultural landmark.
I think that was just...
they didn't do that for real. That's a set.
That's a set. And so is all the tunnels underneath.
Of course. And they go in, and we're introduced to the skeleton of the woman that was sacrificed, and
She's got a different breastplate.
a
It
very
actually
cool looking.
looks better.
Yeah, it actually
It doesn't just look like a torque.
Yes, it actually. You know what it looked like? Now this is black and white. There's like a head on it, right?
Uh-huh.
That looks like jade to me. It's black and white. I can't tell, but it had that kind of milkiness.
Jade. Is jade Mexico have jade?
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. But anyway, it looked like jade to me, and I actually thought that it looked like a very good prop, a very good piece of costuming. And then we have the mummy climb out of his tomb. Now, the mummy in this looks very different from the mummy in the previous movies. I honestly think the mummy looks good in this. He's not goofy. He looks kind of like a shriveled corpse with like shriveled eyes in his sockets.
He is definitely wearing when they go to strangle one of the women.
Yeah.
You can see that it's leotard
Oh, sure.
on his hands.
Sure.
But you're gonna laugh about this. Tell him about the bat thing.
So since he was a jaguar warrior, he can change into animals. And supposedly he can turn into jaguar. We never see that, but he turns into the goofiest looking bat of all time. And it turns out that he can't be out in sunlight either. And Charlotte, in a scene later, he goes, "Oh my God, she's a." She says, "Oh my God, he's a vampire," because he has to flee, and he keeps turning from a bat to fly through things, and then back into the mummy form. Quick, he's turned back into a mummy, and they like try to throw a blanket over him or whatever and chain him to the pillar. They do,
and that's how they destroy him.
Yeah,
instead of fire. Or unraveling him.
Thank you, Monster Squad.
But that mummy wouldn't have unraveled.
No, because he was just like a desiccated corpse.
He's mummified.
Yes. He's not wrapped. He has his tattered clothing on, right?
Yes.
But thankfully he turns back into a mummy rather than like this wacky
But why
bat.
couldn't he, while he's chained up, turn into a bat?
He could have gotten away immediately, right? Well, you know what? He's a desiccated corpse. It's not like he's really thinking clearly.
But they do answer that one in the thing, because that's why he has to see something.
Oh, yeah, that's right. If you cover his eyes, he can't use his magic. So they put a hood over him, and he couldn't turn into a bat. Okay, Darlene, thank you for remembering that. I appreciate that. So they chain him to this pillar inside the pyramid and flee. He tries to get away, and by doing so...
He takes down the column.
And then everything collapses on top of him.
Everyone the end of the pyramid.
The end.
But from the outside, all you get is whoosh.
A little bit of smoke coming out, or dust. That's it. It's okay. We're okay. No problem. The end. So I know it doesn't seem like wrestling really had a big deal in this movie, but it actually did.
The girls do wrestle all the way through it.
Yeah, it's wrestling all the way through it. So I'm going to talk more about what this movie is. What worked in this movie, Darlene? What do you feel worked? You've already said a couple things, but let's point them out again.
What did I say?
You thought the costuming was better, specifically even like the breastplate.
I said the breastplate was done a bit better. I didn't say all the costumes.
All the costuming, no. Some of the costuming was.
Okay, I did not like their leotards. They had some great capes, though.
Yeah, they had some really good... No capes. No capes. Yeah, they had some good capes on it. The costuming for the Black Dragon Gang, terrible. Terrible. The makeup is offensive because it's Mexican actors playing Asian people. Terrible. What works is the flashback. The flashback is like, I want to watch a whole movie with that.
I don't know if that might be stock footage from something else.
It's so different feeling, it has to be, but I can't...
And the film grade looked different.
It has to be. But I can't find any information of where that came from. But I want to watch a movie set in Aztec times with that. I'm hoping there's a whole movie out there that actually is that, because that looks like
What if it's just a
high-end.
documentary of
Oh well, if it's a documentary, good job.
of
Like recreating history.
recreation of
That's a high budget documentary. High budget. There was a cast of extras there that was probably a good 100 people, all in costume with shields and spears, and that's money. Like even if it's crappy, like you just take like ends off shovels and make spears, like fine.
Aaron, how many people did they get to play in the Gettysburg, and what did they use?
Reenactors. Do you think there is a large enough community out there in Mexico of Aztec reenactors?
I don't know. I'm just
Actually,
saying.
you know what? I don't know either. I shouldn't like. It's possible. You're right. Most of the people that were in Gettysburg.
We have people in America that are playing Romans and have Roman reenactment. We had a guy that burned his neck.
That's a story. That's one of our stories that we talk about for reenacting. Is you don't think the old armor is dangerous? It can be, because we were in Ohio one time.
In the heat.
Yeah, in the heat. It was hotter than hell. It was like 90 something plus 80% humidity. Like the heat index was over 105. Oh, like over 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, let's put it that way. If you're not from America. And this guy had full Roman armor on.
And he he burned his neck.
3rd degree burns from the metal getting so hot.
Onto his neck.
And then when he pulled the armor off, it stripped the skin right off him. And he's like, oh no. Because when he looked at it, the skin was like stuck to his armor, like a big flap of his skin. And he's like, oh crap, I can't feel that. And we said, hospital now. And he went. Like he had lost all, like he was down to the lower layers of his skin.
Why we said that he needed to take off his armor was because he kept on getting so white.
Well, it's because he was cooking himself. That poor guy, like he should have known not to be out in the sun like that, because.
But you're thinking about this, and there were Romans in Africa, in that armor.
Do you think they had to wear like cloaks or capes over that, because the sun on that armor? I can't even imagine. Like, it's the same thing, and if you have like full plate or chainmail or banded mail on. I know we're getting off subject, but holy crap, you got to think that that's what you wear those layers for, those cloaks and capes and things like that, to keep the sun off your metal.
Anyway, back to...
We want to watch the movie that has all those extras in it.
I'm just thinking it's more of a documentary or somebody talking another movie or something.
Everything else about this movie, though, is not really that good. Or it's average. Like, I think the acting is fine, except for the Black Dragon Gang. I think they're pretty
If you want to watch women's wrestling, I would suggest you doing, what is the movie?
It's a TV show. It's called Glow on Netflix. I highly recommend Glow. I think Glow is I think Glow is fantastic. It has Alison Brie in it from Community and a whole bunch of other things. But fantastic show. That has women's wrestling.
I wouldn't suggest you watching this one.
No. And, the thing is, from what I have found about this movie, this is like one of 6 movies with women wrestlers that were released in the 60s. I'm not saying we're going to watch those, because I don't want to. I really wanted to understand this Aztec mummy thing, and I don't think I have really figured it out. I'm not recommending women wrestling versus Aztec mummy either, though it is a very light not recommendation, because I think there are a lot of good scenes in it. It's weird. It's interesting. If you like women's wrestling, absolutely.
And luchadors did exist in 1933.
Okay, there were luchadors in 1933. I thought for a while that like luchadors weren't really a thing until like the 50s or 60s.
But they come in 18 something or rather. And there was a very famous one in 1933. So it's not.
One of the things that I actually thought of, and this is a misconception on my part, I'll admit that I was wrong. When I saw the Mexican title for this, it was like Los Luchadores. And to me, that means they're going to be the women luchadors, the ones with the masks and everything. And I thought, this is going to be actually kind of a weird masked woman wrestler movie. And it's not. The women never wear masks. And that's probably for the best here. because it's not like they're mysterious about who they are. It's not like they're actually acting like characters. Their wrestling personas aren't characters. And it makes them feel a little more like proper wrestlers rather than stage acting wrestlers. Does that make sense? It also means that it's interesting why they can actually face off against the judo users in this. That they're actually
the
decent.
women are more wrestling with they wrestled with the judo wrestlers. They wrestled with the criminals. When did they wrestle with the doggone Aztec mummy?
Well, they can't because he's a bat sometimes. Well, they do wrestle him to the ground when they throw the blanket over him. I guess they are pinning him technically.
But you only have that for a little bit because I must have not even.
You can't pin a bat. Not really well. Not well. Even though it is a giant.
They do
bat.
tell you when you have a bat, you want to toss a blanket over it.
You don't want spittle on you from the bat because that's rabies.
That might have rabies.
But you don't hurt bats because bats are our friends. You try to capture them and let them go because they eat all those bugs at night. So never ever mistreat bats. They're your friends.
But raccoons, I think, have rabies more than bats.
I don't know.
And possums and
okay,
but so raccoons more than possums.
We're just kind of babbling, but
yeah, because I really don't want to talk about this movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, okay, come on. Women Wrestlers wasn't that bad. It was way better than Curse of the Aztec Mummy or Robot versus the Aztec Mummy. Way better. Still not good, but way better. You have to admit that. You can admit that one's better than the other.
Okay, but I got a laugh out of the first one we watched.
The robot in Robot. No, oh my god,
the robot is laughing, but the using a bread, Adobe bread.
Oh yeah. That's great with the little dome over it. Yeah,
the dome that they painted silver.
So we hope you enjoyed listening. I know this is a weird episode because it felt like we had already seen Curse of the Aztec Mummy because of the flashback. But the wrestling movie is very strange in itself as well. I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I'm never going to watch it again. But
we have it. Does anyone want a movie?
Nah. Thank you for listening. I'm Aaron.
I'm Darlene. Good evening.
And keep watching the skies.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.